Precious dear hearts, this morning, if you have your Bibles, which you should have, but for those of you who don't, that's okay. This morning, our text is going to come from Luke, the 7th chapter, the 1st through the 10th verse, and also Luke, the 8th chapter, the 40th through the 56th verse. And the subject for this morning is, if only you would just believe and take God at His word. And with that in mind, we're going to begin reading the 7th chapter of Luke, the 1st through the 10th verse. It said, when Jesus had finished saying all this to the people who were listening, he entered Capernaum, and there a centurion's servant, whom his master valued highly, was sick and about to die. The centurion heard of Jesus and sent some elders of the Jews to him, asking him to come and heal his servant. And when they came to Jesus, they pleaded earnestly with him, "This man deserves to have you do this, Master, because he loves our nation and has built our synagogue." So Jesus went with them, and he was not far from the house when the centurion sent friends to say to him, "Lord, don't trouble yourself, for I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. That is why I did not even consider myself worthy to come to you. But just speak the word, and my servant shall be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, and I have soldiers and under me, and I tell them to go, and he goes. And I say to another, come, and he comes. I say to my servants, do this, and they do just what I tell them to do." So when Jesus heard this, he was amazed at him, and turning to the crowd following him, he said, "I tell you, I have not found such faith, even in Israel." Then the men who had been sent returned to the house and found the servant well. Now we're going to go to the 8th chapter, the 40th through the 56th verse. And it reads, "Now when Jesus returned, a crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. When a man named Jairus, the synagogue leader, came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come to his house, because his only daughter, a girl of about 12 years old, she was dying. And as Jesus was on his way, the crowd almost crushed him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years, but no one could heal her. She came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her blood stopped. And he said, "Who touched me?" And Jesus asked, when all they denied it, Jesus said, "Master, the people are crowding and pressing about you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, and I know that power is going out of me." And that woman, seeing that she could not be unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. And in the presence of all the people, she told why she had been touched and how she had been instantly healed. Then he said to her, "Woman, your faith has healed you. Now go in peace." And while Jesus was still speaking, someone came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader, and he said, "Your daughter is dead." He said, "Don't bother the teacher anymore." Hearing this, Jesus said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid. Just believe. Only believe. She will be healed." And when he arrived at the house of Jairus, he did not let anyone go in with him except for Peter, John, and James, and the child's father and the mother. And meanwhile, all the people were wailing and mourning over her. And he said to them, "Stop wailing. She's not dead. She's just asleep." And of course, them not having the faith that they should have had, they laughed at Jesus, knowing that she was dead. But he took her by the hand and said, "My child, get up." And the spirit returned, and at once she stood up. Then Jesus, Yeshua, Messiah, told them to give her something to eat. And her parents were astonished. But he ordered them not to tell anyone what had happened. So we see here that the only prerequisite to the miracle that Jesus, Yeshua, Messiah, did was to believe. And I want to contrast this with the faith of the centurion, with the faith of the father of the child who had died. I'm not going to deal so much with the woman with the issue of blood. We'll do that some other time. But I just want you to see the difference in the faith of the two men, because some of you may think that I don't have the kind of faith that I can believe that God can perform a miracle for me, whatever it may be, whether it may be healing of your body, whether it may be on your job, whether it may be in your finances, maybe it may be in your home, it may be something, an unspoken request. But there is absolutely nothing too hard for God. There's only one prerequisite. He says, just only believe. You don't have to have brilliant faith and that faith that shines so that everybody knows that you believe God. You don't have to have that. On one occasion, he said, you only need the faith of the grain of a mustard seed. That's all I'm asking for you. And here he's saying, just believe it. You don't have to know what, how, when, or where. Just believe it. And I want to look first at the father, Jairus. He was a synagogue leader. You get it? So what was he? He was the equivalent of what a preacher would be in the church, or priest, or whomever you want to call him, depending upon your denominational beliefs. But that was a man of God in the house of God. So you would think that a man of God in the house of God would sort of get it, that if Jesus was indeed the Son of God, that he had but to speak the word. But not only did he just have to speak the word, he could speak the word beyond even a dead situation. Now, he believed to the point that if you just go get Jesus, he said, my daughter will be okay. And he said, so I'm not worried as long as Jesus gets here. But when Jesus got there, the news came to Jairus and said, your daughter is dead. And all the people began to weep and wail, and I can imagine how they felt. As a mother, I know how I would have felt. But they wept for this 12-year-old child as if they did not know the power of Jesus, Yeshua, Messiah. They didn't know about his resurrected power. They knew about his power to heal. And sometimes we don't have enough faith to believe beyond what we've been taught or what we've seen. But what Jesus, Yeshua, Messiah wanted them to see is, I want you to have faith beyond the grave. And that's exactly what he showed them. And he told them, stop crying. She's not dead. She's just sleeping. And of course, they disbelieved it enough to laugh. And they said, what kind of master is this that doesn't know when somebody is dead? Doesn't know when a corpse is a corpse. But Jesus walked in, and he took her by her hand. And he just spoke the word. He said, my child, get up. The Bible said her spirit immediately returned to her, and meaning life came back into her, and she stood up. Then Jesus told him, give the child something to eat. And the parents were astonished at this. Jairus was astonished. Whereas you would have thought that he would not have been, but this was something he had never believed. So sometimes we can believe, but God will give us what is beyond our belief to strengthen our faith. And he ordered them not to tell anybody about this, see, because Jesus didn't want to peep his game too early before he went to the cross. Okay, now let's look at the centurion. Now, this was a man who did not have the faith or the religious hookup connection as Jairus had, because he was not a man of the synagogue. He was a man of the army. He was military, but he knew the power of authority. In the military, there are ranking officers. And when an officer above you speaks, that is exactly what you do. You carry out the order of the one that's highest in rank. And he knew that Jesus, Yeshua, Messiah, had the rank of something much higher than who he was something much higher than who man was. And he said, you don't have to bother yourself to come to my house. Just speak the word. He said, if you just speak the word, my servant will be healed. And then Jesus looked at this and the fact that he said, don't trouble yourself, just speak the word. He said, for I myself am a man under authority. And I also have some soldiers under me. And when I tell them to come, they better come. And when I tell them to go, they better go. And when I tell them to do something, they had better get it done. In other words, he says, get to stepping. If I tell you a mosquito can plow, hitch him up. And he knew that with that same power and authority he had, he believed Jesus had that same power and authority. And then when he spoke this to Jesus, Yeshua, Messiah, he stopped and he said to this man, he said, I tell you, I have not found such great faith, even in among those that I came to, and who should know who I am, should know my power, should know my resurrected power, should know my healing power, should know my power to perform miracles. From the first miracle of turning the water into wine, they should know by now. They've seen me feed the hungry souls. They've seen me perform miracles, and so they ought to know by now. Just believe. And you say, well, preacher lady, what are you getting to here with the only believe? Well, what I'm getting here is it doesn't matter where your faith is, whether you have enough faith to just tell him to speak the word, or if you have enough faith to ask him to come and lay hands, or if you don't have enough faith to believe that after the situation is dead, because there's some dead situations in some of our lives, some situations where we don't think they're ever going to be made right again. Don't have to be physical death, but there's some things we've lost, some things that have happened to us that we don't think we can ever recover, but all we got to do is realize that he is the resurrection and the life. And though they be dead, whatever it is, all he has to do is speak the word. And all you got to do is just believe. Only believe. Because all things, not just some things, all things, let me say that again. All things are possible. And all we got to do, all we have to do is just believe. And so for those of you who are laboring today, I pray that this message will penetrate in your heart, your spirit, your body, your mind, and your soul. The power of God, the great power of God to heal any situation you have. Just believe. Only believe. You say, well, Pastor, I don't understand some things in my life. Just believe. I don't know how it's going to be worked out. He didn't ask you to know how it's going to be worked out. Just believe. Only believe. Only believe. And again, you don't have to have great faith, but you just got to believe that there is a God who can do all things. And although you may be weak and you can't do some things, and although there may be some situations that are out of your control, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about them on your jobs. However, maybe a situation with your finances where you've worked hard and you just don't know what you're going to do, and you don't want to lose your home. You don't want to be set out. You don't want to lose your car. You don't want someone coming to repossess those things. Just believe. Just believe. I pray today that you will believe. And I pray that you will stretch out even on the faith that you have. For all things are possible if you can just believe. Amen. May God bless you today. May He keep you in His care. And may you forever understand the power of only believing. God bless you. God bless you.